When BioShock came out in 2007, I remember reading a review and thinking, wow, that sounds great, I'm interested. But I didn't have the machine to play it on at the time, so I added it to my video game bucket list and moved on. About 15 years later, I finally got to it. I played the remastered version on PlayStation 4. I hadn't seen any gameplay footage prior to playing. I only knew that BioShock is some kind of steampunk FPS and allegedly really good. I'm gonna be honest, my first impression of the game was not overly positive. Don't get me wrong, I think BioShock is an ingenious piece of work, but during the first 30 minutes, I thought it was something else entirely. The main character survives a plane crash into the Atlantic and finds an entire underwater city that used to be prosperous, but the population seems to have gone insane, resulting in a whole bunch of murder. So far so interesting, I was super intrigued by the mystery, but the main character took some serious getting used to. If I were the guy fresh out of a plane crash, almost drowned, I'd be shocked, scared, and full of questions, but this guy is a silent protagonist, so he offers very little in way of reaction. Even worse, he picks up a big ugly syringe from a creepy vending machine and jabs it into his arm. I was like, wait, what? If I stumbled upon a ruined city full of giggling crazies, the last thing I'd do is start injecting myself with whatever I find lying around. I felt totally disconnected from the main character. In addition, encountering the splicers, the main enemies populating the city, kind of bummed me out. I don't enjoy the way they look or the way they sound. They're a bit too close to mad clowns or some kind of infected people to my liking. I'm happy to fight almost anything except this kind of enemy, so I switched off the game and almost never got back to it. But after about a week I fired it up again, and I'm so glad I did. BioShock has its shortcomings, but the good parts won me over. One of them is the character of Andrew Ryan, the creator of the City of Rapture, and probably one of the most intelligent villains in video game history. I have real respect for this guy. As flawed as his philosophy is, he thought he was creating a utopia. He envisioned a place where everyone was free to do as they pleased, and he went ahead and built it, in the bottom of the ocean. That's just crazy. I loved having this guy in my ear. And the main character, well, he grew on me. He actually has a really interesting story that gradually unfolds. His actions started to make sense, and I genuinely cared about him in the end. I also assumed the enemies would be a lot tougher than they actually are. I was initially freaked out because the splicers fling themselves at you like rabid animals, but you can drop them just like that. The same thing goes for turrets and security bots. It's pretty funny to have a turret spitting grenades at you and the character surviving direct hits without even getting knocked back. I'm so used to shooters being challenging, so I assumed I'd have to advance slowly and try to take down enemies one by one, but nope, never mind. Forget stealth, you might as well let them all come at you at once. It's actually satisfying to have a group of enemies rush you and have this big fight where you come out on top. So the gameplay ended up being carefree fun, which is an interesting experience in a place with corpses nailed to the walls. And the game gives you so many toys to play with. You get firearms with multiple ammo types, you get plasmids, which basically give you magical powers, so you can shoot lightning and fire and other things out of your fingertips. Hacking and crafting are also available, which gets an enthusiastic thumbs up from me. The hacking minigame is hilarious. It involves rearranging the plumbing under time pressure. I appreciate the originality, but man, I suck at it. Luckily, if you don't have the patience for it, alternatives exist. You can craft auto-hack tools. If you're loaded with cash, you can even buy your way out of hacking. There's also an item called the research camera. Using that on turrets gave me the ability to insta-hack any turret. And then there's the wrench, possibly the best weapon in the game because it never runs out of ammo and is effective against everything. Just upgrade your strength and swing speed and you're unstoppable. So if you're like me and not super skilled in the art of shooters, or if you're just burned out on high difficulty and want something easy for a change, BioShock might be the thing for you. Don't let the dark, blood-spattered environment scare you. This game is a breeze. Even if you happen to die, the respawn chamber is never far away, which really allows for you to focus on the atmosphere and the story. Speaking of atmosphere, I enjoy the level design. Even though the game is linear with clear objective markers, most levels are pretty big and maze-like, sending you back and forth to find where the next door has opened. There's also the occasional secret room to discover and lots of loot everywhere. Each level features a different section of the city, subtly answering questions such as where the food comes from, or the oxygen, or the energy, where the residents used to go for entertainment, and so on. Rapture feels like a real place. I enjoyed making my way through the city, trying to piece together what went wrong. The few surviving sane people are holed up in their lairs, not eager to interact with you except occasionally over the radio. A big chunk of the story is therefore revealed through audio logs that you find lying around pretty much everywhere. I love the audio logs in BioShock. I think they're brilliantly scripted and full of creepy details about everyday life in Rapture. I have to say this society was royally messed up even before people went insane. One of the biggest highlights and atmosphere builders in my opinion are the Big Daddies and Little Sisters. Big Daddy is such a cool enemy, not just because of the fantastic visual design, but also because of what they are. It's so disturbing. They're alive, but not really. Their sole function is to protect the little sisters, the creepy little girls with eyes that glow in the dark. You find these pairs wandering around, happily oblivious to the horrors around them. I love what their existence says about the society that created them. It's just beautifully messed up. But this is where the game being easy kind of works against it, because BioShock makes a big deal about this moral choice where you have to either rescue the little sisters or harvest them for a substance that you can convert to power-ups. But the game is so littered with power-ups and health items that the choice really doesn't matter much. Plus, it's basically optional. On my second playthrough, I realized that I can just ignore the little sisters. This means missing out on a lot of upgrades, but it's not a progress killer. I still managed to beat the game and still got the good ending, so I'm not sure what to think. Like, this could have been a brutal, gut-wrenching moral choice if the difficulty was cranked up, but the way they did it, it's just a question of would you like to have the good ending or the bad ending. Oh well, it's not a deal breaker for me, just a funny detail. BioShock is by today's standards not the most amazing thing when it comes to gameplay or the visuals. The RPG elements that were probably unusual still in 2007 are not that unusual anymore, and the graphics are clunky even for steampunk. But I still think it's fun to play. Once I got over my first shock, the game world and the story sucked me in, and I didn't want to put down the controller. I totally see why BioShock is frequently ranked among the greatest games ever made. I'm so glad I played it, because now I know what the fuss is about. It's also one of those cases that I think only work as a video game. Trying to convert this plot into a movie just wouldn't have the same impact. It's a great example of video games as a unique form of storytelling that can't be replaced by a book or a movie. And I love that. I'm all about that. I'm a complete sucker for video game stories like this one. So yeah, BioShock, totally worth it. I still don't like the splicers, but it was still worth it. What games have you played where the story only works as a video game? Let me know in the comments below, and thank you for watching.